in three, two, one. Welcome to the Hustle Radio. I am James Chapman. I will be your host for today. And I'm so glad to have you guys tune in with us for the second episode of the Hustle Radio. Today, we're going to be talking about getting your financial house in order. That is today's topic. It's something very important when it comes to self-starters and getting into entrepreneurship. You got to first make sure that your financial house is in order. And today we have a very special guest. We've got Jennifer Harper in the building, who is a financial advisor. Jennifer, say what's up.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Hey, thanks for coming out today, Jennifer, and spending some time with us and helping educate the people on how to get their financial house in order.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. And then, of course, we got Tanisha Irvin. What's up, T?
What's up, James? What's up, everybody?
Yeah. KJ, what's going on, man?
What's good? What's good? What's up?
Yeah. Of course, I got my regulars in here with me. We've been acting a fool in here, just clowning in the studio before, and so we almost ran Jennifer up out of here. So we're happy that she stuck around and stayed with us. Now, Jennifer, tell me the name of the company that you're with.
So I have Bridge Financial Planning,
Yep.
which is where I work as a financial planner and investing work for clients. And then I also started a nonprofit organization called Common Sense Financial Literacy that helps get those lessons in early for the kids, the 16 to 22 crowd.
Awesome. And I can't wait to dive into both of those organizations that you spearheaded and launched, and to hear more about it and what they do, and some of your successes and some of your failures too that you've had with both of those companies. But before we do that, of course, we got to bring y'all the quote of the day from my man KJ. What's up, KJ?
All right. So since we're talking about finances today, I wanted to kind of hit a quote or hit a topic that may hit home for everybody here. Talk about experience a little bit. A wise man once told me, experience always comes seconds too late. And what he meant by that is we all had those moments where we invested some money into something, or we bought a car, or we had different experiences where we was like, oh man, if I would have done it this way, it would have been different that time around. But you need those moments in order to get that experience moving forward. So I think that was a good quote that resonated with me for a long time. Like I said, one of the wise men that I talked to gave me.
I love that. I actually love that. T, what you think about that?
I think that's a great quote.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. You know what? Last time we had, it never fails. It never fails. The last time we had the quote of the day from KJ. If y'all go back and watch the first episode of the Hustle Radio, we had the quote of the day from KJ, and then I threw the question to Tanisha about what her thoughts were on the quote. And man, Tanisha was stumbling so much, she told us to start over. I'm like, girl, we can't start over. We rocking, we rolling. But I think that I like the quote as well, KJ. I think that experience always comes a moment too late. It's something that's very powerful. And I think that this is actually something that Jennifer and I have talked about when it comes to common sense, is how she wants to help people have that experience so they don't have to learn it the hard way. From what I know about common sense, it's for 16 to 21-year-olds, right? And she wants to get them before they get into college, before they start taking on a lot of debt, before they start taking on a lot of credit cards and things of that nature. And so talk about experience, always comes a moment too late. Jennifer, with Common Sense, is kind of helping bridge that gap so that people don't have to have those poor experiences, right? She wants to give them exposure to how to get their financial house in order before they even get to be adults and start taking out car loans and credit cards and all that kind of stuff. Jennifer, do I have a good understanding of that? Is that what you guys do with Common Sense?
That's exactly right. We have a series of 6 classes that goes over everything, and it starts at the very beginning. It starts with aligning your spending with where your priorities are.
Yeah.
That's the foundation of it all, because if you're...
Now, explain that to me. Spending where your priorities are.
Okay, so the quote I used for my blog this month was, your calendar and wallet don't lie.
Okay.
Where you spend your time and where you spend your money is where your priorities are.
Okay.
Now, if you sat down and did a real heart-to-heart with yourself and wrote down where your priorities are, would they be the same thing? Would they, if you got your calendar out for the last month or two, you got your bank statements out for the last month or two, are they the same?
Right.
And if they're not, well, join the club. Nobody gets it right all the time.
Yeah.
But the goal is to keep trying to work toward those things being in alignment.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And so it's like, yeah, I may say that my priorities are saving money or my business or, you know, my kid or whatever, right? But then you go and look at your bank statement for that month, and it's not the same. And so it's, I guess it's like the bank statements don't lie. Like wherever you're spending that money is exactly where your priorities are. I love that. I love that.
Your calendar and wallet don't lie.
Nice. And so, tell me a little bit about common sense, right? We got that. That's for young adults before they start making those types of decisions into the real world. Tell me about your other organization.
So, Bridge Financial Planning, I think, is the next step for people who are looking for financial planning and investing help.
Okay.
So, financial planning, I think, gets a bad rap sometimes because too many people focus only on investments, and investments can be a really important piece of financial planning, but it's not the only one.
Okay.
So it can be anything from making sure that your beneficiaries are or your accounts are titled right, your beneficiaries are right, your healthcare power of attorney falls in that.
Okay.
So it's a lot more than just investments. It's insurance. It's estate planning. It's taxes.
Yeah.
It's all sorts of things.
It sounds like it's a lot of those things that we may not get right on our own. That we just need somebody to kind of point us in the right direction so we can make smart decisions with like our day-to-day life, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's all about trying to get that alignment right with, are you spending your money where your priorities are?
Okay.
And if you are, then you're more likely to hit those goals that you have for yourself.
Excellent. Now tell me about the investment side of that. You said there's also an investment side of that as well. Tell me a little bit about that, what that entails.
Well, so anybody that has a business that might want to start a retirement plan for the company,
okay,
or an individual that might want to start saving for retirement, roll over their IRA. It could be any number of things, and that's part of the services we provide at Bridge Financial Planning.
Okay, good. T, did you have something that you wanted to ask or add?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, like, for entrepreneurs, I know the first of the year comes a time where people definitely want to jumpstart their finances. They definitely want to get their financial house in order.
Yeah.
And I think it's a time for people that are maybe wanting to transition from the corporate world to entrepreneurship to start, kind of putting that into perspective. But what are some of the things that what are some of the tips that you can provide to people that are looking to do that? Because one of the quotes that I did for my It's Lit segment was an anonymous quote: entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people want, so that you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't.
Yeah.
And I think that's not only financial, that's like just having the freedom as well, because with entrepreneurs, you not only have money that you're making on your own, but you have the freedom to take trips, do whatever, work in your pajamas, meet up when you want to. I mean, it's a really cool form of life. But what kind of tips could you provide for people with that mindset of trying to build something of their own?
Well, that's exactly the topic that I covered at Startup Week this last fall.
Yeah, shout out to the folks that put together Startup Week.
Startup
Week was dope. It was dope.
It's so important because for entrepreneurs, every single money lesson or every single personal financial decision becomes that much more important, because if you're having trouble managing your personal finances and then you add on top of it a whole nother layer of business responsibilities, you need your processes in place, you need your emergency fund in place, because I can promise you, as much as I love owning my own business and how, I mean, I absolutely know it's the right decision for me. I think I've never ever heard an entrepreneur say it was easy. And so you're always going to have something unexpected. There's always going to be an expense that pops up that you didn't anticipate.
Yep.
Or on the flip side of things, maybe you've done the work, but somebody's a little slow to pay you. So you need to have those contingency plans in place. You need to have that emergency fund in place. And so if you don't already have that wiggle room in your budget, then you're just asking for trouble.
That's dope. I tell you what, y'all, we got to pay the bills, and so we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and then when we're going to come back, we're going to hear more from Jennifer Harper on getting your financial house in order, and maybe dive into some of her own personal experiences from a financial standpoint and some of the successes and some of the even failures that she's had with her business. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Radio. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Hustle Radio. In case you're just now joining us, we have Jennifer Harper in the building with us. She's a financial planner, and she has a few businesses of her own, one being Common Sense and the other one being Bridge Financial. And she's just given us some knowledge today on how to get your financial house in order. Before we went to the break, one of the things that she talked about was being able to plan for some of those entrepreneurial things that you just don't expect that are going to come up, like people not paying you on time, right? And so, Jennifer, tell us, when did you start Bridge Financial, and then when did you also start Common Sense?
So I'll do that in reverse order.
Okay.
Common Sense Financial Literacy was started really as a volunteer project. It really didn't have its own organization for a while, but I started volunteering and doing that work in 2005.
Okay.
So it's now 10 years old.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, we filed for our nonprofit status. So we are a nonprofit organization. We have a board of directors. We have a group of 6 lesson plans that we work with schools and youth organizations and get our message out.
Yeah.
And then Bridge Financial Planning was started in 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, this is
I've
your
been
new baby that you just birthed.
Well,
Yeah.
I've been a certified financial planner for 10 years this year.
Okay.
So it's definitely not new work.
Yeah.
But I decided to go it on my own and do it a little bit differently than the corporate world, and so far so good.
Excellent. That's dope. That's really dope. And before I forget, I definitely have to remind you guys to follow us on all of our social media outlets. It's The Hustle Radio on Instagram, The Hustle Radio on Twitter, and if you're looking for us on Facebook, it's the same thing. It's The Hustle Radio. Be sure to follow us on that. And if you want to be a sponsor, Jennifer is one of our sponsors with Bridge Financial Planning. If you want to be a sponsor of The Hustle Radio Show, just drop us an email. You can email us at thehustleradioshow@gmail.com. We'll hit you back. We'll get you set up and make sure that you can maybe even come onto the show to promote your business and also provide value to our listeners. So shout out to all of our sponsors. And so, yeah, when we were during the break, another thing that we were talking about, just for some of our listeners that didn't catch it, we were talking about some of the community outreach things that Bridge Financial has been doing and that Common Sense has been doing. Tell us a little bit about that, Jennifer.
Well, so a lot of the community outreach has probably been on the Common Sense side.
Yeah.
In fact, Tanisha was just telling me that our board had a booth last summer.
Like, we were talking during the break, and I had no idea that this was your baby, because I had the opportunity to work with one of your board members, Mr. Fletcher Sims, and but yes, Common Sense was like one of the first vendors that I secured for the New Chattanooga Community Expo last year. So that's awesome. I really appreciate that.
Thanks for the opportunity.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. I look forward to having you guys back.
We'll be there.
All right.
So Jennifer, tell me a little bit, just from your own personal side of things with business, just how important it is for people who are pursuing entrepreneurship or pursuing working for themselves to get their financial house in order. Do you have any personal stories that you would like to share?
Well, sure. I did a talk last year with some of the UTC students, and the UTC Financial Wellness Center is a fantastic resource for UTC students. And they were asking me, did you come out with student loan debt? Did you come out with credit card debt? And fortunately, I was able to get out of college without student loan debt, but I did work through college, and I did have a credit card, and I wound up graduating with about $3,000 in credit card debt. And I try to tell young people now, when you finally do get your first real job and you do get that first paycheck, it is a real bummer to turn around and write that check back out to pay off debt on stuff you don't even remember what you bought. So if you can avoid that, you're doing your future self a big favor.
Yeah.
That's so true.
And I remember, like, even from my own personal experiences, man, I mean, coming out of college and having to pay stuff back. But when I first started my business and I was looking for funding to get it started, just for all of you listeners out there who are currently seeking funding for your businesses, if you're starting up, if you're launching a startup business, banks don't fund startup businesses
at all.
They don't, and I think a lot of people for some reason think that they do. Banks will fund existing small businesses. You know why? Because they already have capital and cash flow coming in that they can balance that loan against, or they have some properties within their business or store or whatever that they can balance that in. But if you are a startup business and you don't have any of those things, the bank is not going to fund you. The bank has to protect itself. And so what a lot of people end up doing is if they have a house, they'll use their house as collateral so that they can start up their business and get it funded by a bank. But if your financial house is not in order, if you don't have your personal finances secure, the bank is not even gonna even think about entertaining funding your startup. And so not having your financial house in order, it just further pushes you down with the chances of actually getting your business funded and something started. Did y'all have thoughts on that?
Yeah, so some great ways to get your financial house in order from the beginning is, first of all, know where you're spending your money. If you track it for a while, you're going to find some really interesting habits that you have that you might not realize you have. If you had a $150 bill come in every month, you would know about it, right?
Yeah.
I'd know about it.
Yeah.
But how many of us are aware every single time we spend $5 a day? Probably not, right? But $5 a day, 30 days in a month, that's $150. But we don't think about it that way. So pay attention to how you're spending.
I just spent $5 if I came to the restaurant.
But the other thing is pay attention to your credit score. Your credit score matters because it could be an old medical debt that you forgot about. It could be any number of things that you're not aware of. So go out to, there's plenty of places you can go. There's the Federal Trade Commission has a website where you can get free credit reports annually from the government.
Yeah.
Credit Karma is a website that I would recommend going to. They do a really good job and they're legit. But be aware. Don't let something catch you by surprise when you are ready to get a loan or you are ready to bring on a partner. You want to be in a position of power. You want to be in a position of knowledge.
Yeah. Go ahead, KJ.
Well, Jennifer, I know you mentioned earlier about having like an emergency fund. What are some tips or what are some ways to accumulate that emergency fund for people who may not understand how to, get an emergency fund or have that emergency fund in hand?
Great question. So the guidelines for an emergency fund are pretty straightforward. If you're in a household where you have two incomes, then you can maybe have a little bit less because if one income was lost, you could still have the income from the second person's income. So you could maybe get away with about 3 months of emergency cash. If you're the single earner for your household, then you need more of a buffer because it might take a little bit longer than you think to get back on your feet. So you want to get closer to maybe 6 months of emergency fund. And I would say start small.
Yeah.
I think it's time and time again I've seen that the habit is worth so much more than the amount. So if you just get into a habit of saving, I don't care if you start with $5 a paycheck, I don't care if you start with $10 a paycheck, whatever it is, the habit is the most important thing, and the dollars will come.
Yeah.
With just the habit. I have a question for you as well. We talked about the emergency fund. What about just a quick diagnostics for people out there that don't know, like even if they do the track and quote and they track where their money is being spent, how do I know when I just look over my finances, want to jumpstart my year, how do I know how much I should have in savings? Should I have a budget? I know those are things that we need to call you and become a client for you to assist us with. But if you could just give us just like a quick, like how much, what percentage of your income or how much should you have in savings to consider yourself in good financial health?
That is a great question, but unfortunately every single person is so different. There's no one right answer. So, for example, I'll give this example. I've got some clients that travel is a number one priority for them. They want to travel. And when we sat down and had a conversation about, would you rather save for a travel budget or save for a home purchase? They said we would rather continue renting because our jobs might take us outside of Chattanooga eventually, and we want that flexibility. And in our world right now, it's more important for us to travel. So is that
my type of people?
is that what I would do? Is that necessarily what I would always recommend? No, it's not. But it's right for them because that's their priority. Now, they still need to think of longer term. They still need to be thinking about retirement because we're all living longer. We all, my grandparents had great pensions. Those don't exist anymore. So, we all have to be responsible for ourselves eventually, and it's going to come, and so you might as well be ready for it. And it's tough. I'm not going to make it easy. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. But it's good to. It goes back to the priorities. What's right for one person might not be right for another.
Yeah, that's perfect. All right, y'all.
And how can we contact you if we want to get some advice?
We're coming back. We're coming back.
Okay.
We're gonna go to break. We're not.
Hanging.
Nah.
Okay,
So we're definitely gonna come back. But we got to take another quick commercial break. This has been very informative, and I know all my listeners out there and viewers out there have been getting a lot of information from Jennifer. But she's not done with us yet, and so we're gonna go to a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back. The Hustle Radio. For sure. All right, welcome back to the Hustle Radio. So, y'all know the first episode we talked about fake hustling, and we wanted you guys to actually stop the fake hustling and start pursuing real endeavors that are going to be prosperous for you. And then today we're talking about getting your financial house in order. I was rapping with Jennifer over the break, and she brought up a great point in regards to tying in the two topics of fake hustle and getting your financial house in order. A lot of fake hustlers are fake hustling because of the flash. They want to look like they're doing something. They want to look like they're a starter. They want to look like they're an entrepreneur. But it goes the same way when somebody, when it comes to people spending. A lot of times you're spending in order to look flashy, in order to look like something that you may want to be one day, but you're not quite there yet. I think the old school saying is keeping up with the Joneses, right? Yeah. And so a lot of times you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, but what you don't know is the Joneses may be neck deep in debt. And that you're not in those meetings with the Joneses as they're sitting in front of their bankers and trying to get loans and all that kind of stuff for that stuff, right? So, Jennifer, did you have extra thoughts on that?
Oh, amen.
Yes. So I think that's just one of the things that I just wanted to chime in and say, man, is like if you're a budding entrepreneur, usually you start off with a 9-to-5. Right? Before you start your business, you're working a 9-to-5 job, right? And you have to make that type of transition. Don't tie yourself up in such a way that the money that you're spending from that 9-to-5 is going to hinder you from breaking into entrepreneurship and working for yourself, right? Because if you don't have your financial house in order, if you're so dependent and living check to check and you're not positioning yourself to have some type of financial freedom, there's no way you're going to be able to transition into entrepreneurship and have the business freedom that you need in order to take the risk, because this is a risky game. Working for yourself is very risky. And if you're going to be able to take those type of risks, you have to be able to have the flexibility in your spending to do so, because a lot of times you may have to come out of your own pocket to fund those things that you're going to need to get funded for your business. So don't cripple yourself before you even get started into the game. All right. And so Jennifer, tell us a little bit about how people can find you. Give us that information for your two companies.
Sure. So Common Sense Financial Literacy can be found at ccfli.org. That's just the acronym for Common Sense Financial Literacy, Inc. And then Bridge Financial Planning is bridgefinancialplanning.com. You can find my phone number and even schedule a meeting straight from the website.
Perfect. Jennifer, thank you again so much for coming in and joining us and kicking in with us. As always, make sure that you follow us on all of our social media outlets. It's The Hustle Radio on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And then also drop us a line, man. Shoot us an email at thehustleradioshow@gmail.com if you want to be a sponsor, if you have a topic for the show, if you want to hear from a special guest or anything like that. Drop us a line. We would love to hear from you. Until the next time, start doing, keep going, The Hustle Radio, and we're out.
Peace.